stepped off the transport shuttle and onto the polished metal floor of Aegis Prime, the interstellar station that hovered silently above a distant planet. She adjusted her bag on her shoulder, trying to ignore the tight feeling in her chest. She had left Earth years ago, leaving behind everything she had known, everything that had hurt her. Her ex-husband, Damon, was a memory she had tried to bury deep inside her. But now, standing on this busy, bustling station full of humans and aliens, she felt a strange unease in the pit of her stomach. The corridors of the station were filled with light and soft hums of machinery. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved purposefully along the walkways. Some carried crates of strange, glowing materials, others hurried to meetings with serious expressions. Had seen such things before, but today everything felt sharper, more alive, and somehow dangerous. She hugged her bag closer, feeling small in a place that was larger than any world she had known. She had a simple mission: escort her research team safely to the council chamber and deliver critical data. Nothing should go wrong. She reminded herself of this as she walked past rows of transparent walls, seeing planets spinning slowly in the distance. She took deep breaths, trying to calm her nerves, focusing on the task at hand. And then she saw him. He stood at the security checkpoint, tall and strong in his black and gold uniform. His posture was perfect, his movements calm and precise, almost mechanical. Froze, her heart pounding so loudly she was sure someone nearby could hear it. Her mind raced. She blinked once, twice, and her hand shook slightly as she reached for her communicator. It couldn't be, but the face, the jawline, the way he held himself, it was exactly like Damon. Her chest tightened. Memories she had tried to erase came rushing back in an unstoppable flood. The warmth of his hand, the sound of his laugh in quiet apartments, the way his eyes had once looked into hers with trust and love. It had all ended in betrayal, leaving scars she still carried, but seeing this man, or this copy of him, made the pain sting again, sharper than ever. She stepped back, almost bumping into a tall alien merchant. Her legs felt weak, and she realized she had been staring too long. The man turned slightly, and their eyes met. For a moment she thought she saw recognition flicker across his face. But then he returned to his duties, scanning the corridor and checking IDs. Professional, controlled, untouchable. Forced herself to breathe. She had to focus. She had to ignore the feeling in her chest and the past clawing at her mind. She pulled her attention back to her mission, telling herself that it was impossible, that this man could not be Damon, not here, not now. Yet deep down, something inside her whispered otherwise. Every instinct screamed that this was more than coincidence. The resemblance was too exact, the way he moved too familiar. It was as if the universe was mocking her, placing the image of her past love directly in front of her, reminding her of everything she had lost. Her research team gathered behind her, chattering nervously about their schedules and the station's security. Nodded absent-mindedly, not really listening, her eyes scanning the corridor every few seconds. She didn't want to look again, but she couldn't stop herself. The man moved forward, checking IDs, his every movement precise and confident. His hand trembled. Her mind fought between disbelief, fear, and something else, a spark of hope she didn't understand. Could it really be him, or was this some cruel trick, a human who looked exactly like Damon, meant to stir old wounds? She swallowed hard and forced herself to move. She couldn't let her emotions take control. Not here, not now. Her team depended on her and she had a mission to complete. Still, her eyes kept drifting back to him. The memory of Damon's face, now alive in this stranger, or perhaps not so strange, made her chest ache in ways she hadn't felt in years. And in that moment, realized something terrifying and thrilling at the same time. Her past was not done with her. Somehow it had followed her across the stars, moved down the corridor trying to focus on her mission, but every step felt heavier than the last. Her mind kept returning to the human guard she had seen. Every detail, the way he stood, the curve of his jaw, the familiar tilt of his head, haunted her. She couldn't shake the feeling that the universe had played a cruel joke on her. He looked exactly like Damon, her ex-husband, the man she had loved and lost. Yet he was Damon, not really. At least that's what she tried to tell herself. Her team followed her closely, carrying equipment and muttering quietly about schedules, deadlines, and safety protocols. Nodded automatically, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She watched the guard from the corner of her eye as he moved down the hall, scanning IDs, guiding people, and keeping the station orderly. Every move he made was precise, confident, almost graceful. He didn't glance at her, at least not obviously, but she felt as if he were aware of her presence. She paused near a large observation window, watching the stars drift past. Her chest tightened with every heartbeat. Memories of Damon pressed against her mind. The nights they had stayed up talking about dreams, the small smiles exchanged over breakfast, the silent support during moments of fear. And then the betrayal. It had cut her deeply, leaving scars that time could never fully heal. Why was she reacting this way to someone she had never met? He was Damon, not really, but he was human like Damon, and the resemblance was uncanny. Her emotions tangled with confusion and longing, leaving her trembling. She realized she was holding her breath, trying to convince herself she wasn't being foolish. Her communicator beeped. A voice called her back to the present. "Doctor, we need to continue to the council chamber," one of her assistants said, forced herself to nod and move forward, putting one foot in front of the other. She focused on the mission, but the image of the guard followed her like a shadow. As she passed another checkpoint, the guard stopped briefly, directing a worker to a different hallway. For a split second, their eyes met. It wasn't recognition, at least not that she could tell, but something about the way he looked at her made her heart twist. She couldn't understand it. It was just a fleeting glance, yet it carried weight, as if something buried deep inside him stirred. His mind raced. Could he have known her? Was he trained to notice every detail, every nuance? Or was it something else, something impossible? She shook her head. She had to stop thinking like this. She had work to do, responsibilities to fulfill. The station was alive with activity, and she couldn't afford distractions, not even one that felt like fate itself. Her team reached the council chamber, and she took a moment to steady herself. She pressed her palms to her thighs, inhaling deeply. The memories of Damon, the trust, the love, the heartbreak, were still strong, but she forced herself to focus. She had to be the leader here. The team depended on her. She could not falter. But as the hours passed, found herself glancing at security checkpoints, hallways, and patrols whenever she had a moment. She couldn't help it. The human guard was always there, sometimes near, sometimes far, moving with efficiency and control. His presence unnerved her, yet at the same time it made her feel alive. That evening, after the team completed their initial surveys and data transfers, found herself alone in a quiet observation hall. She gazed at the distant planets and drifting stars. The station hummed softly around her, but her mind was filled with one thought: the human guard. She wondered who he really was, why he looked like Damon, and what it meant for her. Her heart ached with longing, confusion, and fear. She wanted answers, but she also feared them. The past had a way of haunting her, and now it had found a way to reach across the stars, and realized with a sinking feeling that her journey on Aegis Prime was about to change in ways she could never have predicted. The human guard, silent and strong, continued his patrols, unaware, or perhaps aware, of the storm he had awakened in her. Didn't know it yet, but their paths were about to collide in a way that would challenge everything she thought she knew about the past, the present, and humanity itself. Had barely slept that night. The image of the human guard haunted her dreams, his face flashing in her mind with every shadow and every sound. She tried to focus on the mission ahead, but the memory of that familiar jawline, those intense eyes, and the way he moved so confidently kept creeping back. It was like the universe was playing a cruel game, reminding her of a love she had buried and a betrayal she had never fully healed from. The next morning, the station erupted in chaos. Alarms blared, red lights strobed across the hallways, and the station's artificial gravity hummed sharply as it switched to emergency mode. Pirates had breached the outer docking bay, attacking security personnel and scattering workers in panic. His team froze, uncertain where to go, as debris from security doors clanged to the floor. His heart pounded in her chest. This was real. This was danger. Her training kicked in, instincts sharp from years of surviving in hostile environments. She shouted for her team to follow her toward a secure corridor. Her hands shook slightly, but she forced herself to move quickly, guiding them through the chaos. And then she saw him. The human guard, Damon's double, or whatever he truly was, appeared at the end of the hallway. He moved with a precision had never seen in any human before. Every action was calculated, efficient, almost elegant in its execution. He deflected incoming attacks, guided fleeing civilians, and neutralized threats with astonishing speed. Froze for a brief second, stunned by the sight. He looked like Damon. Every movement, every gesture carried the same energy she had once loved, the same calm confidence that had drawn her to him. But this was no man from her past, this was someone, or something, different. And yet she couldn't help but feel her chest tighten, her heart racing, her breath shallow. The guard's eyes scanned the corridor, and for a split second they met. She thought she saw something there, a flicker of recognition, maybe, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. He barked orders, directing station security to seal the breaches, and then, without hesitation, came toward her location, covering her and her team as they moved. "Stay close," he shouted, and the command sent a shiver down spine. It was a voice she knew in her bones, familiar yet impossibly strange. The memory of Damon's voice from years ago collided with this moment, confusing her senses. They ducked behind a large metal console as blaster fire crackled nearby, glanced at him again. He was shielding her team, moving with incredible strength and speed, but he never once glanced away from the path ahead. Yet there was a sense that he was aware of her, that he was looking for her in the crowd of chaos. Her mind raced with questions. Could this man remember Damon? Could he know her? Or was it just instinct, some human pattern programmed into him? She didn't dare ask, not here, not with the station under attack. One of her team members was pinned under debris and shouted to help. Without hesitation, the guard lifted the heavy metal panel as if it weighed nothing, saving her colleague. His breath caught in her throat. He was human, but stronger, faster, better than any human she had known. And yet every movement reminded her of Damon. Every glance, every posture, every word stirred emotions she had long thought buried. Fear, longing, confusion, and awe collided inside her chest, leaving her feeling both terrified and alive. When the last of the intruders had been neutralized and the alarm subsided, his legs felt weak. She leaned against the console, her eyes fixed on the guard. He moved with authority, scanning the area, making sure her team was safe. For a fleeting moment, he paused and looked in her direction. Their eyes met again, longer this time, and something unspoken passed between them. Didn't understand what it was, memory, instinct, or something else entirely. But she knew that her life had changed in that moment. The human guard was no ordinary protector, and the past she had thought was gone had somehow followed her across the stars. Hands were shaking as she guided her team through the winding corridors of Aegis Prime. The station was alive with chaos, alarms blaring, red lights flashing, and the hum of machinery heightened to an urgent pitch. She could hear the distant sounds of blaster fire and shouting, and the acrid smell of smoke filled the air. Her heart pounded as she realized that despite the station's size, the danger was everywhere. She glanced at the human guard, her ex-husband's image brought to life, moving with lethal precision ahead of her. Every motion he made was controlled, calculated, and deadly efficient. He seemed untouchable, a perfect blend of human skill and something more. Could feel the weight of awe and fear pressing on her chest. He was human, yet more than human, and he was keeping her team alive. A sudden explosion shook the corridor, throwing and her team to the floor. Sparks rained down from the ceiling, and the walls vibrated with the force of the blast. His mind raced. They needed to move, and quickly. She looked toward the guard, but he was already there, shielding them from falling debris. The strength he displayed was incredible, almost unnatural, yet somehow completely human. "Move this way," he shouted, his voice sharp, authoritative, and filled with an urgency that made her heart skip. Scrambled to her feet, pulling her team behind him. She noticed the way he moved, every step measured, every action precise. There was no hesitation, no fear, only focus. It was mesmerizing and at the same time terrifying. As they turned a corner, his path was blocked by a group of armed intruders. Her team froze, panic flashing in their eyes. She swallowed hard, unsure how they could survive this. But before she could react, the guard stepped forward. With incredible speed and strength, he neutralized the threat, moving like a shadow. He didn't pause, didn't hesitate, he simply acted. His chest tightened. She had seen courage before, even heroism, but this was something else entirely. This was human potential pushed beyond limits, disciplined, controlled, and astonishing. And yet the resemblance to Damon, The way he moved, the way he commanded attention without trying, tugged painfully at her heart. It was as if the past and present were colliding in front of her eyes. Her mind was a whirlwind of questions. Was he aware of the connection between them? Did he recognize her? Or was it all instinct, all programming? She didn't know, and the uncertainty twisted inside her, leaving her both anxious and strangely drawn to him. A blaster shot rang out nearby, and she instinctively dove behind a bulkhead. The guard moved instantly, intercepting the attack and sending the intruder sprawling. Watched, breathless, as he continued to shield her team, leading them toward a safer section of the station. She realized, with a strange mixture of fear and admiration, that she was completely relying on him, not just for safety, but emotionally. When they finally reached a temporary safe zone, his legs trembled as she sank to the floor. Her team checked on each other, but her gaze never left the guard. He stood a few meters away, surveying the area, calculating the next move, yet every now and then his eyes flicked toward her. His chest ached. She wanted answers, but she knew there was no time. In that moment, she understood something important. This man, or this image of Damon, was extraordinary. He was human, but more than human. And she couldn't ignore the pull she felt toward him, the strange sense of connection, that reason. The station was far from safe, and the danger had not passed, but realized one thing clearly: as long as he was here, she had a chance. A chance to survive, a chance to protect her team, and perhaps, in time, a chance to confront the questions that had haunted her since leaving Earth. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. Fear was still there, but now it was joined by determination. She had a mission, a team to protect, and an enigma to understand. And somewhere inside her, a tiny spark of hope had begun to burn. The chaos of Aegis Prime had calmed slightly, but her heart was still racing. She watched the human guard, Damon's image, impossibly alive, move among the crew, checking their safety and repairing breaches. Every step he took was measured, precise, and full of quiet power. Couldn't take her eyes off him. She had tried to push aside memories of Damon, but now they collided with the present in a way she had never imagined. Her team settled into a safer chamber, tending to minor injuries and catching their breath. Leaned against the wall, her hands trembling slightly. She felt a strange mix of fear, relief, and something else she couldn't name. Every instinct in her body was screaming that this man was important, more than just a protector. The guard moved closer, patrolling the hallway outside the chamber. His heart skipped as their eyes met again. This time it lasted longer. There was no doubt in her mind. He was aware of her. Something flickered in his eyes, a recognition buried deep, like a memory trying to surface. Her chest tightened with emotion she hadn't felt in years. His voice was barely audible as she whispered, Who are you?" The guard paused, his posture still commanding, yet there was a subtle softness in the way he looked at her. "I am here to protect," he said, his voice steady but carrying an undertone she couldn't place. "Your safety and the safety of your team is my duty." It wasn't an answer, but it was enough. Realized that, for the first time since leaving Earth, she felt a strange comfort. There was someone she could rely on, someone strong enough to face dangers she could barely imagine. And yet the resemblance, his face, his gestures, made her emotions a confusing storm of hope and sorrow. Her mind wandered back to Damon. Could this be some remnant of him? A copy? A human molded to perfection by the Defense Initiative? She didn't know, but every instinct in her body told her he was different from anyone she had ever met. Strong, capable, and yet human. As they moved through the station to secure more sections, the guard stayed close, covering their path and neutralizing threats with incredible efficiency. Began to notice small things. He waited for her at corners, subtly guided her team away from danger, and sometimes, just sometimes, his eyes lingered on her longer than necessary. It was almost imperceptible, but she felt it deeply. During a brief lull, finally allowed herself to speak. "Why do you look like him?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Like Damon." The guard hesitated. For the first time, she noticed a flicker of emotion cross his face, a pause that seemed almost human. "I am modeled after someone," he said carefully. "Someone important. I carry part of his memory, part of who he was." His breath caught, part of Damon, not Damon himself, but a fragment, a reflection. She felt tears prick her eyes, a mix of grief and something else, something like hope. The past was gone, but here in this strange, powerful figure, a piece of it remained. She realized that it wasn't just about the danger or the mission anymore. This was personal. The connection she had buried for years had returned, strange and fragile, yet undeniable. She didn't know if she could trust it, but she couldn't ignore it either. As the team moved forward, stayed close to the guard, feeling the strange comfort of his presence. He was human, yet extraordinary. Strong, brave, and impossibly familiar. Every step they took together, every glance exchanged, reminded her that the past and the present could collide in ways she had never imagined. And for the first time in years, allowed herself to feel something more than fear or anxiety. She allowed herself to hope. The universe had brought them together in this impossible way, and knew that whatever came next, she would face it not just with courage, but with a strange, new connection guiding her steps. The station was quiet now, the echoes of alarms and blaster fire fading into the soft hum of machinery. His team was safe for the moment, recovering in a secure chamber, but couldn't sit still. Her mind kept returning to him, the human guard who looked exactly like Damon. Every instinct told her there was more to him than just resemblance. She had to know. She followed him down a dimly lit corridor, her heart pounding. He moved with calm precision, every step confident, every gesture controlled. And yet there was something about the way he glanced at her over his shoulder, a hesitation, a subtle softness that made her chest ache. It was not Damon, but it carried a trace of him, a memory embedded in flesh and movement. Finally, he stopped in a small room filled with softly glowing panels and a quiet hum of machinery. He turned to her, removing his helmet slowly. His breath caught. The face that stared back at her was undeniable Damon, or a version of him. The same sharp jaw, the same intense eyes, the same quiet strength, but with something different, something untouchable and distant. Who are you?" asked, her voice trembling. The words felt small compared to the storm of emotions raging inside her. Fear, longing, confusion, and awe collided, leaving her nearly breathless. He paused, studying her, and for the first time she saw something in his eyes, something almost human, almost alive. "I am part of the Human Defense Initiative," he said slowly. "I am modeled after Damon, his appearance, his skills, even fragments of his memories, but I am not him. I am new. I exist to protect, to serve, and to continue what he could not." Staggered back slightly, her mind struggling to comprehend. Tears prickled her eyes. The man she had loved was gone, lost to time and betrayal. And yet here was something born from him, a reflection, a shadow, and a promise all at once. Her emotions swirled. Grief, longing, and a strange sense of hope battled inside her. "You carry him inside you," she whispered, barely able to breathe. "In fragments," he replied. "Enough to guide me, enough to remember courage, love, and loss, but I am my own person. I am here to protect you now." Sneeze felt weak, but she held herself upright. She could see it, the humanity in him, even if it was shaped and enhanced. He was extraordinary beyond anything she had ever imagined, and yet he was human with emotions, choices, and the capacity to care. For the first time in years, felt a strange peace. The past was gone, but part of it had returned in a new form. She could mourn Damon and still embrace this life in front of her. She realized that fear and longing did not have to control her. They could guide her, shape her decisions, and help her grow stronger. She took a deep breath. I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice soft but sincere. "I never imagined seeing this." He stepped closer, not threatening, not distant, but present. "You don't need to say anything," he said. "Just trust me. Trust that I will protect you and your team. Trust that we can face what comes next together." Her chest tightened as a tear rolled down her cheek. For years, she had felt alone in the universe. For years, she had carried the pain of betrayal and loss. But now, in front of her was someone extraordinary, someone human, yet beyond human, someone who could carry the weight of her fears and still stand strong. Nodded slowly, letting the emotions wash over her. She didn't have all the answers. She didn't know how this had happened or what it meant for the future. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty: she was not alone anymore. The human guard, the echo of Damon, the fragment of the past alive in the present, stood with her, silent and strong. And for the first time since leaving Earth, allowed herself to hope, not just for survival, but for something more, something human, something extraordinary. The station hummed softly around them, alive and full of possibilities. And in that quiet moment understood that the universe had a way of giving second chances, even in forms she could never have imagined. The station was quiet now, the alarms long silenced, the fires extinguished, and the remaining pirates detained in secure cells. Stood at the observation deck, looking out at the endless stars scattered across the black expanse of space. The hum of the station beneath her feet felt like a heartbeat, steady and alive. Her chest still ached from the day's events, but the weight of fear had begun to lift, replaced by something she had thought lost forever: hope. The human guard approached silently, his footsteps soft against the metal floor, turned to him, and for a moment they simply looked at each other. The resemblance to Damon was undeniable, the same sharp jaw, the same piercing eyes, but there was also a calm strength, a presence that was entirely his own. He was not the man she had loved, but he was human, extraordinary, and now part of her life in a way she had never imagined. I began, her voice trembling. I don't know how to feel. I thought I had lost him, lost everything. He stepped closer, but not too close, respectful, steady, human. You did lose him, he said softly, but part of him lives on in me, not as a replacement, but as a guide. I am here now, and I am here for you. Her breath caught. She felt tears prick her eyes, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to cry openly. The grief for the past and the hope for the present collided in a single moment. She had mourned Damon, and now, in a way she never expected, she could begin to heal. Thank you, she whispered, her voice breaking, for protecting us, for being here. He nodded, his expression unreadable yet gentle. It is my duty, he said, and I will continue. Whatever comes next, I will face it with you. Humanity is stronger than you think. We endure, we adapt, and we rise. You are not alone. Felt a warmth spread through her chest. She realized he was right. She had faced loss, betrayal, and exile, yet here she was, standing alive on Aegis Prime, still capable of feeling, still capable of hope. And beside her, human and extraordinary, was someone who could help her face the future. For a long moment they simply stood there, side by side, looking out at the stars. The chaos of the day seemed distant now, reduced to a memory. And in that quiet understood something profound. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and sometimes cruel, but it was also full of resilience and wonder. Humanity, its courage, ingenuity, and heart, could shine even in the darkest corners of space. She turned to him fully, her eyes meeting his. I don't know what comes next, she admitted, but I want to face it with you. He tilted his head slightly, acknowledging her words. Then we will face it together, he said simply. Whatever comes, we endure and we rise. Smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds she hadn't realized were still overhead. She felt the weight of the past lift just enough for her to breathe freely again. And in that moment, she understood something deeply human and profoundly beautiful. Even when the past haunts you, even when loss feels unbearable, hope can be found in the present. In courage, in connection, in the strength to keep moving forward. The stars stretched infinitely beyond the observation deck, a reminder of how vast the universe was, and yet how human hearts could shine brightly within it. Took a deep breath, feeling the resolve and courage well up inside her. With the human guard beside her, part memory, part miracle, she knew that she could survive, thrive, and even embrace life again. For the first time in years, felt whole, and the station hummed around them, alive and vibrant, carrying the promise of new beginnings. Together they faced the stars,